High-grade Clanche. Hey, what's up again, everybody? Robert184 GundamReviews.net, and it's been too long, but this website needs more Clanche. And after you've already seen the unbox and the parts, well, it's time to put it together and check it out in both of its modes. And when it's all put together and armed up for good measure, I've got to say that in terms of grunt suits, that this has got to be one of the best designs I'd say I've seen in most of Gundam, just because of the fact it actually seems to reflect 3 generations of advancement. You're not going to see a lot of gray inner frame, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you are going to see some cool parts poking through, including in the top part of the back of the top of the legs there. In the front, all white legs going back to the original Genuis with just enough gray in all the right places with some cool looking pink elbows there. And the shield and the beam rifle there are going to be understated enough and yet futuristic enough. You can see where the beam saber is going to go in there. Shield, nice, simple, very similar to the Age 2, and you've got that cool looking railgun looking-ish thing there. But the thing that really sets this apart is that whenever I remember looking at the Clanche in the anime, was I always thought that it had a backpack, and I thought just the custom was going to be a little bit different. But in fact, it's just the back of the elbows here, and the way that they attach on, and the fact that they've got all that gray visible, top, bottom on the back, and from the front, which is the most important part when you're looking at this. Combined with the insectoid head, this guy, in terms of looks, is right up there in my books. For mobility, how does it stack up? Well, you can have the legs kick all the way forward and off to the side, full splits if you so choose. You'll see the way that the knee is going to expose itself a little bit awkward looking there. Definitely looks like it's just chopped in half. But the ankles down here are going to give you that little bit side to side, front and back, and you are able to pinch those off ballerina style. Upper body now, where you're going to get that rotate point, and you can really see that polycap down there. It doesn't look all that awkward unless you're looking at it, because usually your eyes will be above it, looking down when it's on your shelf, so I don't think that's going to be a big problem for me. You can see that the shoulders are going to move up and down, and they're going to rotate somewhat forward there. You've also got this shoulder part, which just feels, it's not loose at all, but it's not really going to be, it will stay in place when you want to put it there, but it's not going to feel all that solid as you do it. Of course, a full rotation there, you can also bend this part around, and the arms are only going to give you a 90, but then again, it's exposing a lot of nice gray there for the inner frame, so it's looking all pretty good. And for the head itself, you can see that it can pop out there pretty easily. And it's this back part here that you can remember you can use this to modify and move things around. So far, no issues with that whatsoever. Comparison time now, let's go back to Largan Drace, he of the first generation, along with Wolf and a very young Flit there. Definitely not genocidal yet. Looking pretty cool here. It's definitely got a much more boxier just outline the way the legs have. Lots of lining opportunities, which is not necessarily a bad thing over there on the right. But the shoulders are definitely blocky. They got fixed in the second generation and with Wolf's custom, but you can still see enough similarities there just between the pink pockets and where you're going to store the beam saber / night beating stick there. And just some nice little touches like the white part there. However, and you can see that that's going to carry through to this new one over here in terms of the Clanche, just definitely 50 years better looking, I'd say. The Genuis 2, outside of the mold for the head and the shoulders, really didn't change all that much from the first generation. Which means the Adele is probably a better comparison, this being a follow-up to the Age 1 and definitely the new grunt of the second generation. And here you can see the step from 1 to 2 to 3, combined with the Age 2's transformation, is definitely going to make the Clanche stand out in terms of just functionality and as a kit, never mind for its cool looks. In the posing section, you saw that this guy has good posability pretty much everywhere, except for the 90 degrees that he's only going to get with the arms. But when you actually try to go for the ground poses here, you're going to notice that it's going to be a little bit awkward, and that's just because if you look at how much surface area of the feet are actually touching the ground there, there's definitely not all that much. And the other thing that you've got to be cognizant of is just the fact that those elbow things there, you've got to be aware of them. The fact that you've got rotations all around is not a problem, but they do fall off. I've had both of them fall off just getting him into this simple pose. And the head is going to look a little bit awkward as he's able to look down the barrel, but just not as easily as he would on some other kits with a less pointy football-looking nose over there. Gun up and saber across the body is also going to give you a different feel here. Here you'll see that the right arm, you're going to lose that issue there with the chest. The fact that he has very little waist armor there and the fact that he can get out of the way so well is definitely a plus there just in terms of what you want to do with the legs. The gray looks a little bit awkward, but that beam saber coming out of the shield there and being used on the left hand definitely is working for me, and just showing that little bit of white as you focus here on the left side of his body is, I think, a plus just in terms of pure visuals. But this bird was meant to fly, and I've got to say that this is just a variation of one of the poses that they show off around the side of the box. And I gotta say that for me, this is just fantastic. First of all, they're gonna give you the base here, so no separate action base required. If you want to get this guy up aerial, everybody who has this kit can do that. All you have to do is just mimic what you see on the side, and you can have that leg there kicking out straight, that nice big bend up there, and all of a sudden those elbow parts, which seemed a little bit awkward in ground poses, are looking really cool, as even with the arm going all the way back there, you can also have both arms going back as it showed on the side of the box. And this guy, just in terms of pure aesthetics, the smooth lines all over the place and the way that he gracefully arcs through the air, certainly seems a little bit more cool than you'd expect from the average grunt. And if you want to go full out air splits, as you can just imagine that he's going to drop the rifle and pull out 2 beam sabers, well, I suppose just the one. Yeah, I don't think you'd want to be the Farsha or the Farsha right about now. So for transformation time, the first thing you're going to do is just pop off the side of the wrists, and then you're just going to move the manipulators. They do seem a little bit awkward as they're not going to fit back there flushly. But then what you're able to do is just pop out this back part, which was in there pretty awkwardly, push that down. It doesn't go all that far down in terms of the head, but then you can reconnect it. It has 2 attachment points, one sort of in and deep, and then one nice and shallow here. And when you've done that, you'll see that this moves around loosely, but you can attach the shield on to here. But then if that last part seemed cool to you, well, this part certainly doesn't. You're going to twist the arm around, and then you just drop the shoulder down. It doesn't lock into place or anything like that. But then what you do after you twist them back is you take the arms and you have them go all hands across the world there and have them awkwardly touch, which just means that it's going to be very hard to line up these 2 side binders symmetrically. And next, if you want to go all Zedis style, you're going to take that, and you can see the way the waist is going to bend up, and you're not going to get it quite flush with the back there, but you've got that little bit of an angle, and then the legs going straight back. Pop down the toes there all pointy style, and you can see that you're going to have these side pockets there. But after 2 so-so moves there, you're going to be able to open up the rifle there, plug it into the front, well, the bottom of the chest there. Satisfying sound as you do that, seal that up. Of course, you'll put the head back on, and there you go, launching towards the moon. You have, well, I'm sort of torn here. It does seem better than the average Gundam, just because he is going to cover up some body parts, albeit in a strange way. The way the beam rifle attaches on there, and you get that nice chunk of gray. The head, the fact that it's going to be covered under that gray handle up there is looking good. The sides of the arms, they really do look good the way that you're able to attach the shoulder down here with these binders. The arms do look a little bit awkward, but the shield is going to hide that, so unless you're looking for it. And the legs, the fact that they do sweep back pretty well there to combine with the pointy toes, I've got to say that this guy does sort of look better than, well, what you'd expect for a 3rd generation Transformer, although it's based on a 2nd generation, and really, for a Grunt TF, I'd say it's not all that bad. But you will notice that it's going to sit at a bit of an awkward angle there just because of the way the action base, you don't get to choose at what angle it's at. It's only got a straight up and an out one there, so you'd have to switch it up with an action base too, and something with a good attachment point there to attach between the legs if you want to do anything other than this shooting up to the stars. Or you can forget about that awkward angle there with the base and just use the landing gear, probably going to be kept in a Ziploc. In terms of just the gray parts, but it's great. You're going to pop off the fronts of the ankles there and put on these 2 rear ones and the front part of the waist section to attach on the front. And voila, you have the equivalent of a plane sitting on the deck of an aircraft carrier. Old school. I don't know why I'm flashing back to the early episodes of Gundam 00 where we got to see all of the Union suits there. It's looking okay here, but I'd sort of say that even though I complained about the angle just a moment ago, that it's probably better than doing it this way. You'll also notice that he's going to be tilting off to one side or the other if you're not very, very careful with the way that you line up the legs. And that waist armor does look a little bit silly. So overall, I'd say up in the air is the better option, but it's still nice that they're going to give you the choice of both. All included in the package, nothing required that's sold separately. So that's going to wrap up my look at the mobile suit and the transform mode of this Clanche, which we needed more of. Don't forget to stick around, I'll get my thoughts together and have my final verdict, all the good and bad things. Why don't you let me know what you think of both of the modes and, of course, this video itself. Anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. See ya. Pink for grunt suits, you say? Never thought I'd see the day. You're telling me.